G'day, I'm Merryl Blair from Melbourne in Australia, and I'm thrilled to be your Bible study author for this next lot of studies. When I was invited to make a submission for the Bible studies, it was obvious to me that it was going to be about women's stories. I love telling the stories of women in the Bible. I think there are some of them that are simply not told often enough or well enough. I have been teaching biblical studies for 28 years now, and there is something about the beauty of Hebrew storytelling that has always gripped me. When I first discovered some of the skills of the Hebrew storytellers, it made the Bible come alive as if someone had turned a spotlight on. I discovered that little things like repetition and the characterisation and the way it's done and the way we're only told little bits of information because we really need to know it just took me into the joy of understanding these stories in ways that I never had before. And although these are the stories of my background and my faith journey, all of my life, my father was a minister, I found that I could enter into them and let them come alive in the way that stories should, which is an invitational space that invites us in to say, what will I find as I wander around here? Because it'll be different from time to time. It's not always the same place that we inhabit. So it's not like you have to come to the end of a story and go, well, the moral of this story was. There are many possibilities that are nourishing and inviting and confrontational as well in stories. And so I found that these particular stories were drawing my attention. I found them intriguing because they're the family stories of Jesus. There they were in the genealogy at the very beginning of Matthew's Gospel, where he draws the line from Abraham all the way to Jesus. And out of all of those names, there were 5 that jump out. Matthew names 5 women. And when we look at them, they're not the women we might expect. They're the women who possibly we would prefer to keep swept under the mat. But they're also women who, on the whole, have their own stories told very, very carefully and beautifully in the text. They're stories that break in at moments when great things are happening and they bring us into the small and domestic, and they do it with so much detail. They're not things we need to know, but we are invited to dwell in them because there's something we can learn from them. And so I have told the stories of Tamar, of Rahab, of Ruth and Bathsheba, and finally of Mary. Some of them there is more to say than others. Ruth has 4 chapters, so I've done 2 weeks on Ruth. Bathsheba only appears 3 times in very small amounts. Mary, there is so much we think we know about Mary, but when you come to look at the biblical record, there's actually very little. And so it's been really intriguing to sink into these stories, to look at the context they were told in. What were these women struggling with? Why did they act the way they did? What were their choices? What choices did they not have? What did they give to the ongoing story of salvation? And then finally, why did Matthew include them? I love to think that Jesus was formed by his grandmothers. that the DNA of these women, most of them foreigners, all of them some sort of sexual transgressors, not quite nice. I love to think that was flowing in the veins of the Jesus who became the Christ, who I still follow. Because if that's the case, then they're also my ancestresses. They're ours. They are there to teach us something. We're called to sit at their feet and listen to their stories. And within those stories, we hear the struggle of ordinary people like us. People who weren't particularly brave or particularly intelligent or educated or powerful or in places where they could make a massive difference to the world. But people like us who had possibilities in every choice to do something for the good of others. And so as we go through these stories together, I'm hoping that you will read them as your grandmothers, that you will bring all of the wisdom and experience that you have yourselves, and you allow that to be a gift you give to those who you're reading them with. They're going to challenge. There is no doubt that these women were chosen specifically because they were challenging the church of Matthew's time. He could have chosen completely different people who would have fitted very nicely into a lot of people who were trying to feel safe. But he didn't. He chose women who were opening up the cracks of what it meant to belong, to be part of a safe group of people. And by choosing them, I think he was saying to his church, it's okay to feel unsafe. It's okay to wonder whether I'm any good. It's okay to wander with these women and feel a little bit lost with them. But it's also okay to be surprised by the Spirit of God who's coming to us through a Tamar who manages to trick her father-in-law Judah into giving her her rights and allowing his own family to continue. It's okay to use whatever small resources life has given me, like Rahab, to protect my family, to look after the people who don't even have those resources around me. It's okay to walk hand in hand with the wonderful women who accompany us and give us support and who we support, like Ruth and Naomi. It's okay to have to leave everything I know and find my way somewhere else because God will give me family who will help me do that. It's okay to find my voice in a man's world, in a world where my voice is taken and constrained like Bathsheba, but to find where I can work for good, even in among all of that. And it's okay to stand with Mary and to say, let it be with me according to your will, even though that might be the most dangerous thing you will ever say. All of these women share their stories with us with great grace. And as we study them together, I hope we can receive the many, many gifts they give us. I hope you'll find things in the stories that I've missed completely. And I'd love to hear from you if you do. I find every time I teach something, someone finds something I've never noticed. It's the beauty of really good stories. But I do hope you'll also find yourselves in there. You'll find the invitation and the blessing that you are called to be and that you pass on to those around you and those who will come behind you. Because the tales of the grandmothers are what we are all called to pass along to those who will be our grandchildren in faith. We say thank you for what we receive, and we pass it on with deep gratitude and joy and blessing to those who come after us. I do hope you enjoy these studies. Bless you.